Hey guys, I'm Vanessa Canvey, welcome to or back to my channel, and today I'm talking about going from 1 to 2 kids. I love having 2 kids. I'm just talking about the sort of like challenges and things you might not think about if you've just got 1 kid and you're pregnant with another one. So first of all, I didn't realise how different one child could be from another. So obviously people say every child's different, but you think, okay, yeah, I have had 1 child before, so I kind of know what it's like. What I'm gonna say to you is, you don't know what it's like. My 2 kids are so different that you actually probably wouldn't think they were from the same person. My son is does what he's told, like loves nursery, loves structure, praise. Basically was quite an easy baby. I found him very easy. I used to think, what's everyone talking about? It's so easy having a baby. And everyone's here saying that it's the hardest thing in the world. And I didn't understand until I had my second baby, who is completely different. My son's very independent, she's not very independent. She was quite clingy, especially in the early years, like the first year, she practically didn't detach from my hip. And I wouldn't say I raised them that differently. There was actually some major differences in the way they were raised, but she was very like attached to me. She didn't like me going out of her sight. She doesn't like certain things. She doesn't like nursery. She doesn't like a lot of things basically. So she's very, very different, and I found it quite challenging after having Oscar, because I basically presumed that it would be the same thing again, which it wasn't. And she has, obviously the older she's got, it's not as challenging, but there is certain things that are still so different. They've basically just got completely different personalities. That is one major thing about having a second child, is that they could be completely different from the first one. And some people, their first child's a bit more challenging and their second one's a bit more easygoing. So it just depends, but basically I have no idea what's coming next. So another thing about going from 1 to 2 kids is I just found it so easy having 1 child. Like going to the shop was easy, you've only got 1 child to think about, get ready and that sort of thing. Whereas when you've got 2 children, obviously that's an added person to get ready, but also the coordination of the 2 of them, and depending on what age your kids are. But I just found like trying to get out was much more difficult. I didn't find that with just having 1 child, but with 2 I found it much more difficult to just get out of the door. And even being out is difficult because you've got to keep your eye on 2 kids. Going to places like soft play, which, to actually be honest with you, I've only been twice since Maya's born and she's 2, are just they're not really in the picture, because one wants to go one way and the other one wants to go another way, and how are you meant to keep your eye on both of them? I obviously take them to the park. Closed areas where I can see them easily is fine, but you know, like play areas where there's like 15 stories and masses of like spongy materials where you can't see that your kids, it's just a bit too much for me. So obviously when you have a second child, you've got an older sibling, and that is like one reason why I wanted to have another child, also because I just wanted to have another child, was to let my older son have a sibling, and that is the most amazing thing ever. My son absolutely loves having a baby sister. He still called her baby sister, and she's 2 and a bit. And he talks about her at nursery, at school. He's like, my baby, it's my baby's birthday, my baby. And that literally melts my heart. And he's always been really helpful. If I needed like nappies or something like that, he'll always go and get them. And he loves having a sibling, and that for me is just amazing. Also, my daughter, for the first year and a half, she absolutely didn't like Oscar touching her. She didn't like Oscar being within like 1 meter of her. She would scream like until your ears burst. But now that she's 2 and a bit, she's like loving him. She says, she'll say mummy and then she'll say Oscar. Me and Oscar are there. and she'll say Oscar, like, to help her do things, and she'll just like shout his name all the time, and it's so cute. And the thing is, he loves her shouting his name because he feels like needed. So go, if he's sitting on the sofa, go and sit like so close to him, so they're practically like one, and I just love that. Like, that is amazing. One thing that can be a bit tricky about when you go from 1 to 2 kids is if you need to do anything like sleep training, people call it, but for example, my daughter is still in our bed and I want to basically get her into her own bed now that she's 2 and a bit. The thought of it, and because my son's and my daughter's bedroom are right next to each other, if I try and put my daughter in bed and she's crying and all that sort of thing, then that's maybe gonna wake him up and it's just gonna like disturb him. Whereas when I just had Oscar, that was nothing to even think about because there was no other children there. So that is like a major kind of thing for me right now, because I'm thinking, how am I gonna do this? Unless, you know, I'm like, he goes for a sleepover at one of his grandparents or something like that for a few nights. How am I going to like basically pull this off without him waking up and it disrupting his sleep as well? So just those little things to think about when you're doing these things, about how you're actually going to manage it. Something that I've not exactly conquered yet, seeing as Maya's still in our bed. So that's just a few things that are my experience from going from 1 to 2 kids. If you've got any experiences, share them below, and how did you find it going from 1 to 2? Thanks guys. See you later. Subscribe, please subscribe. Like, it would mean the world to me. Bye. So obviously when you have a second child, your first child is still there, obviously.